What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso. The league year is here. Little Sunday nightcap instead of Sunday coffee. I am back from Aruba. You see, slight tan, not too much, a little bit of a tan. And just in time, because this is one of the craziest weeks of the year. And we already have some news as the New York Jets have proactively signed Jamien Sherwood before he hits the free agent market. $45 million up to $30 million guaranteed, as we will caveat 1,000 times this week. Let's wait to see more specifics on the contract. How many years? What is the phasing of the guaranteed money? Does it free up extra cap space for this year? A move that I think was 50-50. Was he going to go to Atlanta? Was he going to go to San Francisco? Were the Jets going to be proactive money-wise in keeping him? It's kind of like him, Morgan Moses, Conklin, Eccles, like when you're talking about who are they prioritizing keeping, it's not this like massive list. Sherwood, because of his age and the season he was coming off of, being priority number one is not surprising. And look, I think Sherwood is sometimes a touch overrated by fans. However, he's 25. He's coming off the best season of his career. Plays fast, was a former safety. It's going to be a new scheme for him. That being said, he's a guy that made a very strong impression on the team in the locker room last year. I think it shows a good thing to the locker room that the new regime is paying young, rising talent. Want to see the phasing of the money, want to see how he looks in the new scheme. I'm not going to act like he's an all-pro linebacker, but you want more players like him than players not like him, especially on the trajectory that he's on. I am curious to see what it means for what do they do with a guy like Quincy Williams, who's a little older? Is he going to get a new deal from them? Are they going to kind of let him play it out? Does it lead to a hold-in situation? Do they think it could be Sherwood and Mosley for one more bridge year? Is there some other guys that they could look at in free agency that are more second tier in linebacker? I know Zach's mentioned Cody Barton from the Broncos, who we flagged in our free agency big board. Another guy that he mentioned is Pert, also from the Broncos, because Morgan Moses is going to hit free agency now and may get silly money somewhere else. And I want Moses back for a lot of different reasons, but it would not shock me if he tried to go to Super Bowl contender versus the Jets. And the Jets said, with his age and his injury history last year, we're going to go see if we can get a different swing tackle. Maybe it's Pert, maybe it's Skipper, and draft a guy on day 2 or day 3 and make that work for a year or two. And instead, we're going to focus our early retaining talent on Sherwood. So this is the first sort of big news and splash of what should be a very eventful week. Really, tampering period starts tomorrow. League year technically starts Thursday, but it's the whole week. There's going to be signings every single day. I think pre-Sherwood deal being finalized, the biggest story right now amongst the Jets and like the chatter is Justin Fields, right? It sounds like it's a two-team situation, and if Fields is going to hit the market, the Jets' chances probably climb up that much higher if Pittsburgh couldn't get him to avoid hitting the market. So I think I feel like the winds are starting to blow more and people being open-minded about this being a logical bridge signing for the Jets to come in to compete with Tyrod, to run a certain type of offense where the Jets are going to more 12 personnel, use all 3 backs, run the football. Fields has a comfort level with Garrett Wilson. It's probably going to come down to money and whatever the conversation is with Pittsburgh. I would think if all things are equal, he'd want to try something new with the Jets. He was in Pittsburgh last year. He got benched. You kind of know what you got there, and why not try a different situation where you're going to have a 1 or 2 year audition, and can you go do what Geno Smith or Sam Darnold did and revitalize your career and go get another monster contract somewhere if you come in and put together a good season while the Jets are, sort of in a transitional period at the quarterback position post Aaron Rodgers. You got some weapons here that you should feel comfortable with. You got 4 of the 5 starters on the offensive line in place. You have to deal with Arthur Smith. So I think it's like 50-50 also with Fields. We'll know pretty quick, right? We can know by the time I finish recording this podcast if he's going back to Pittsburgh. I would say if he is formally hitting the market, and Connor and I are recording tomorrow night, and he's still out there, that probably means the Jets got a good chance. And if they don't get him, what is the veteran fallback option? I think that's a very interesting, wide open question Do they go to a guy like Jameis? Do they look at Cooper Rush? Do they get in the Kirk Cousins conversation? Do they just say, we're okay with Tyrod and we're going to figure it out in the draft? It seems like the field's interest is very real. He'll be the biggest name to watch early in free agency. Beyond that, you're going to be looking at some second-tier linebackers, defensive linemen, offensive tackles. Safety, Connor Hughes has thrown out a couple of big names, right? Could the Jets look at Javon Holland from the Dolphins? Could they look at Simmons finally after all these years? Simmons, like 32. I'd rather they go a little younger. Holland, a good player, a guy that has a skill set the Jets just haven't had at safety for a long time. He had some comments about not liking playing for Vic Fangio, who's a very good coach. I don't know if that's a reason to write him off. I'm not sold the Jets are going to go crazy money-wise on what it's going to cost to pay him, but they're going to have to add a safety or two. And it's a deep market at safety. Jeremy Chin is off the board, but there is not a shortage of other options out there. I am curious if they do, start bidding and get involved with a guy like Holland, who is, one of the top five-ish players available on our overall board, just because he has that free safety skill set that the Jets have been lacking forever. We know Hufanga could be someone they have interest in because Wilkes has familiarity with him. Justin Reed probably hits the market with the Chiefs paying Bolton. Reed, you know exactly what you're getting, solid plug-and-play starter. That could be another guy that they look at if they don't want to go with him. There's rumors that they are going to be in on Carlton Davis. Do they pay a corner and a safety? What does it mean if they pay a corner money like that for how they're looking at paying Sauce in the immediate near term? A lot of interesting potential moving pieces. I also wouldn't forget about the receiver position and guys like Josh Palmer and Tim Patrick. As the Jets need bodies, and they need guys who could chew up reps. Seems like Tyler Conklin will definitely hit the market. Does that mean the Jets look at a Juwan Johnson, or is he just sprinting right to Denver? Some other names at safety. Cameron Bynum's out there. He could be a plug-and-play starter for them. There's not shortages of players on where the Jets have needs, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Being always biased towards receiver, like, is it going to be Palmer? Is it going to be Patrick? Is it going to be Slayton? Is it going to be Demarcus Robinson? We'll see. If and how they pay Fields, does that have any impact on the kind of guys they get? All this stuff should get sorted out very quickly because everything happens like sooner and sooner now with the league year process. But the news of the day is a new regime keeping a guy who was one of the Jets' best players last year, one of their few bright spots, and him not darting off to go play with his former interim head coach or his former head coach. And I'm Sherwood's a guy we'll take a longer look at. I'm really curious to have Connor and Dan dig in to where he plays in this defense and how he projects to it. But fast guys who can tackle generally can be used in any sort of scheme or system, and I think he's that. And I don't know what's going to happen with Mosley. I've kind of thought he was done, but maybe he's here for a year or two. I just do think it will get interesting now with Quincy seeing what he got paid, and does that lead to a situation? I just one to monitor at the linebacker position. Keep an eye on right tackle if Moses moves, and then keep an eye on the Fields news, sooner rather than later. So what we're going to do at Badlands this week, I think you guys kind of know how league year works. Connor and I will record tomorrow night, react to whatever happens before then. We'll have a war room recorded as well that will hit Tuesday morning. We got to talk about the pick 73 insanity. Like, what the hell was that, and how does that happen, and what does it mean for the Jets draft plans? We'll have war room for that, and to answer any of your Discord questions. We'll have other guys in the early part of the week. We'll likely have a Discord show drop in the early part of the week as well. And then we're just going to be reacting as, news happens. There'll likely be 1 to 3 pods every day all the way up through the weekend. So look out for that. It's I was thinking about this. We were talking about this in the Discord today. It's been a really long time since the Jets have had a head coach and general manager concurrently going into their first offseason together. So I would say expect a little bit of the unexpected. Yes, some of the names that they're going to look at that were previously in Denver and previously in Detroit are not going to be surprises. It makes sense for these guys to go with people they're familiar with. But, even you forget that Douglas started at a weird time. So that free agency period, it was kind of like Gase and Maccagnan still, and then Saleh started after. So really we're going back to Maccagnan and Bowles the last time we were flying this blind on what a new head coach and GM combo we're going to do. So I think there could be some surprises in there. I would say, my predictions for the next couple of days, I would say it seems like the wind is headed towards Moses leaving, and they will go sign a veteran that they think could be a bridge previously from Denver or Detroit. I think them bringing Sherwood back won't stop them, looking at adding a third linebacker. I think they're very serious about Fields, and I would say it's a true 50-50 whether they get him or not. I would say if he is not back in Pittsburgh by the time we're recording tomorrow night, he's probably going to end up on the Jets. And I think it's not getting talked about a ton, but I think they'll move relatively quick to get a receiver in here. Maybe that's Patrick because it's a lower cost deal than a guy like Palmer. But they have to get somebody in here who can catch some passes. I think Conklin is probably gone as well. Just trying to lob all these predictions in where I can. And safety, I'm not sold it's going to be Holland, but I don't doubt that the interest is real. I think they'll dig a little deeper into that market, and I would not be surprised if it was a position they added 2 players at all, because they kind of just need to start over there, and that's what I think will happen. The Carlton Davis, I'm just curious how high they go. I get a little worried about investing that much money in corner and slightly older corners. It's not my favorite thing to do. We've talked about it a little bit here, where do they want a veteran in Sauce's hip pocket to help him acclimate to a new system and a new coaching staff, and they see it as also an investment in Sauce to help him get to where they want to make him the highest paid corner in football. I don't know, but I just feel the need is too great at safety and defensive line to go too crazy at that position. So my guess is Jet fans are going to be overwhelmingly happy about Sherwood coming back. I think in a situation last year where it was very AAU Jets and some questionable effort was happening at times, you would never have that for Sherwood. He was flying around every single week. Could be a little undisciplined and overrun run lanes at times. That's not always on him. The Jets were a schematic mess last year and had a terrible defensive line in front of them. I don't like to discount the message it sends, though, when other guys in the locker room see, okay, like a day 3 pick, busted his ass from a safety to a linebacker, became a starter, and became one of our best defensive players last year, and the team pony up and paid him. That's a good sign from the new guys, and I think part of that's why they'll probably also be proactive with Garrett Wilson as well, and maybe some of the other younger players on the roster. So I think culturally it's a good thing, and it's just going to be interesting to see some of these guys in a new defense, and honestly with a new defensive line, which will also make his life easier. So thank you, everyone, for listening. It's very good to be back, very good to be podcasting, ready to do a shit ton of podcasting this week. We'll be also back to launching our best balls for Underdog. Year 2, we're back, baby. It's still promo code Badlands. I'll still have the link in the episode description for everything. But look out for that. We're going to be doing some more different giveaways layered on top of that, where if you participate, you have a chance to win like a $50 credit, some Underdog merch gear. So look out for those to start flying again soon with the pre-draft leagues that they have. And be ready to check back tomorrow. I think we'll have a good feel for what the Jets quarterback position will look like no later than the middle of the week. It's a new day. It's a new regime. It's one of the more exciting times of the year if you're regularly off-season champs like the Jets are. And I don't think it's necessarily wise to go crazy spending at the top of the market, but the Jets have some meaningful holes they need to fill. And the type of players they add in the second and third tier, I think, will be instructive about schematically what they want to do and what the team is going to feel like. So it's not a team with a shortage of, middle tier guys that they need who are starters or role players. And they have one less to be worried about now with Sherwood. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will talk to you soon.